Okay, everybody. Hello, hello, hello. Everything's fine now. Just gonna move on, and have a great show again tonight. We got some breaking news, another plane crash, so we better get to that right away. Fine Eagle. There's no. I want to see if I can get into other channels about this one. So this was out of New Jersey, I think. We'll get back to it later on. I'll talk to you about what happened earlier, JJ, on the phone later. Where's everybody at? Terry! Glad you made it on time. Lucy, I think I gave you enough today. You don't need nothing. Daryl. Thanks, Terry. Well, yeah, I don't want to talk about it right now. I I took care of everything, Michelle, okay, and all that. So everything's good. And if it continues, I got the policeman's phone number to call. So I just that's all gone. I'm gonna go on, move on. You're not getting no more food. Okay, I guess it's ready to go. I don't see how many will get in here tonight. Early start, mean Sunday. You just woke up from your nap. Crabby. Go crabby. Okay, since JJ's in here, I'm gonna do her couple videos. I got. I gotta find. You stop. Stop whining. And friends, American Hartford Gold. Oh, I gotta go to Sky News. That's Chico whining. I got an 8-minute one that happened 13 hours ago. JJ. Just a minute. So yeah, the first two I'm gonna play for JJ. I'll get the window in a minute. Yeah,
Honors in the last 45 seconds. Drive to Constitution Dock. You can see those pictures on your screen now. Master Lock Comanche clinching their 5th line honors victory. They won back in 2015, 2017, 2019, and 2022. This is the 5th victory for Master Lock Comanche. Some very strong winds propelled it up the River Derwent in the last few hours. They weren't expected to finish until about 10 or 11 p.m. tonight, but these strong winds have propelled it to a 5th line honors. That's Master Lock Comanche. They set the race record back in 2017, 1 day and 9 hours. They haven't beaten that race record this year. Much slower conditions. They're coming in at about 2 days and 5 or so hours. That is the official time for Master Lock Comanche. You might be able to see them celebrating down there in the waters of Constitution Dock. They're back with a vengeance after last year. They had to retire early due to a damaged mainsail. And what a ride it has been.
Just
they will be very happy. Some very dangerous conditions
you're bringing to us
in the
now.
Bass Strait.
Did you see the highlights yet?
What was it like just in the last few moments as all of this was unfolding? Big breaking news you're bringing to us on Sky News now. Comanche, Master Lock Comanche, clinching line honours for this year's Sydney Hobart.
Oh, it's been a very dynamic situation these last few hours, all day really. They slowed to a standstill off the Tasmanian coast. Comanche was only going 1 or 2 knots at one point. You can hear the celebrations beginning now. You can see their waves. And then they suddenly picked up speed all of a sudden. You know how quickly these conditions change off the Tasmanian coast. They were going at about 25 knots at one point, and they've suddenly surged up the River Derwent to victory. Owned and skippered by Matt Allen and James Mayo. This is their 5th line honours. Okay. They lost to Law Connect by just 51 seconds.
I'm glad I found it for you.
They've now beaten Law Connect for line honours by, you'd think, about 30 or 40 minutes. We can just make out Law Connect in the distance, about 9 or 10 nautical miles behind in 2nd place. Scallywag in 3rd. All 3 Super Maxis led at some point during the race. That's how dynamic it has been. Law Connect led out of Sydney Harbour on the first day. Then Comanche overtook them, and Comanche dominated throughout day 2. This morning, Scallywag, they edged into the lead at one point. So all 3 were in contention, but Comanche, they just do so well with this sailing, which just picks up those sails and carries them up the river, whereas Scallywag and Law Connect do much better in those lighter conditions. So yeah, Comanche claiming line honours in the last few moments. Some very, very happy people on board this boat and all the other boats around the place.
What a massive moment there for Master Lock Comanche. And we heard there from you, Aspen, in the background, those very loud woos. There's a lot of excitement, and there's going to be such a scene over the next hour too as we see the crew come out onto the shore. The Premier will be there, the team at the Cruising Yacht Club, of course, as we see those champagne bottles being popped too. Incredible moment for Master Lock Comanche. As you said, this will be the 5th time that they have claimed line honours. They did previously in 2015, 2017, 2019, and also back in 2022. And it has felt like for so many years that we've seen Comanche and also Law Connect almost as feuding siblings. You know, they've both had so many wins in this iconic Sydney Hobart yacht race. But this year, certainly Comanche pulling through and clinching that line honours win. So it'll be such a big sigh of relief for the team on board. They're going to be so excited that they've managed to pull this off. James Mayo and Matt Allen, the skippers, and over the past day or so since all of those super yachts and all of the vessels set off on this iconic competition, we've been trying to get in touch to speak with the team on board Comanche, but they've said multiple times, you know, we're not doing media interviews We're focused on the race. You know, we've got our eye on that finish line, the eye on the big win. So they've been very focused on it. And of course, that was after them retiring early last year too, with mainsail damage. Back with a vengeance this year, absolutely. Aspen, if you're still there with me, I'd love to know what it's felt like for you covering this Sydney to Hobart. Has it been the first one that you've covered?
Yeah, it has, Julia, and it's been quite a special occasion too. It's the 80th anniversary of the Blue Water Classic, so what a year to be covering the Sydney Hobart. There's I'm not sure if you can see these pictures behind me. There are thousands of people lining Constitution Dock because this is a rare daytime finish. Normally, this event finishes in the middle of the night when everyone's asleep, but it's around 6 o'clock down here. Beautiful sunset, absolute optimum viewing conditions. No, it's been an incredible Sydney Hobart and quite a happy and jovial year after the tragedy last year. It was quite a somber atmosphere at the finish line last year with those two sailors who lost their lives. So a much happier ending for the cruise. You might be able to hear some of those cheers down there. And of course, this is only line honours. There's also the overall champions, the Tattersalls Cup, which is the main prize, and currently Celestial C70 is out in front for that race. That'll be decided over the coming days. The overall winner, it's a handicap that's calculated with a complex mathematical formula I won't go through now, but so that is the overall winner. And so there's still quite a bit to go through down here at the race village at Constitution Dock.
And no doubt Celestial V70, they'll be hoping to get that overall win this time around. I've been reading over the last hour the predictions for that overall win when you take into account those handicaps. And there's been a number of different predictions about who would come out on top. But as we've heard there from our reporter on the ground, Aspen, it looks like Celestial could be in with that overall win. But of course, the big focus for the meantime right now on the ground is that line honours victory. A massive win for Master Lock Comanche, especially after having to pull out of the race last year. And you can see massive crowds there gathering at Constitution Dock in Hobart, are waiting to soak up all of that atmosphere. Quite a few news crews down there on the ground as well, waiting for the crew to come in for that incredible celebration. Now, I'm told that when we do start to see those crews come onto the shore, we will see a presentation that will be occurring at Constitution Dock. There'll be the champagne spray, and then the trophy will be handed over. There's then going to be an all-in press conference on the dock. And also then I'm told another presentation on the stage in the race village where all the crew will receive a medal. I'm told in that initial presentation too on stage, we will see the Commodore Nick Hutton. There'll be the Deputy Lord Mayor, Councillor Dr. Zelinda Sherlock. She'll be down there too, the Deputy Lord Mayor of Hobart. David Jacobs too, the Vice Commodore of the Cruising Yacht Club Australia, and also Premier Jeremy Rockcliffe. He is expected to be down there too. So massive news, and we'll get back to that when there are any developments.
Okay, that was a good video. I got one more for you.
Talks are centred on a potential end to the war in Ukraine. The US is adamant on playing a pivotal role through its 20-point peace plan.
I do believe that we have the makings of a deal.
We already seen this part, JJ. I don't know if you did or not.
Very important. There's nothing more important. I look. We settled 8 wars, and this is the most difficult one. I thought it would be in the middle of the pack. This is the most difficult one, but we're going to get it done.
And work on different documents. I hope that all these documents can bring this as quick as possible.
Mark Stone has more details on the significance of the meeting.
Could be boiled down into two distinct themes. One is security guarantees, what America is willing to give, and that means what Trump is willing to give in terms of security guarantees down the line for Ukraine. And the second is territory. And they are two very, very difficult issues. One is difficult for Zelensky, and one appears to be difficult for President Trump. Trump does not appear to be wholly willing to provide long-standing American military security guarantees to Ukraine, largely because it doesn't seem to fit with his worldview, which is that Europe is ultimately Europe's problem. And even though Europe is trying to stand on its own 2 feet with its increased funding of NATO and all the rest of it, Trump kind of is not really up for a long-term military commitment to Europe of the type that Ukraine is asking for. So the question there is, can Ukraine and the Europeans persuade him? Maybe, maybe not. The second issue, territory, is a tricky one for Zelensky because he is being asked by the Americans and, of course, by the Russians, just give up the east of your country, up to 20% of the land in the east, the land that they have been fighting over. Give it up. Give it over to Russia. Well, Zelensky's not willing to do that at the moment. And so that, for him, is a massively difficult issue. And in terms of the two sort of bits that are linked to both of those strands that to come out of what we just heard there, well, on security guarantees, I thought it was really interesting that Trump said no one yet knows exactly what will be written into the security agreement. So that kind of brings everyone back down to earth, because it's not as if they have some agreement and they're about to sign it, that the Americans are committed to a form of security for Ukraine, because Trump's saying just a few minutes ago, no one knows exactly what will be written into the agreement. Well, surely Trump does. Surely he's thought about it. Maybe not. So that is certainly something the Americans the Europeans will be focused on. And then on the issue of territory, well, it's something that came out of the Kremlin that I think is very, very interesting, because a spokesperson for the Kremlin, reacting to the call that Trump held with Putin just before the meeting that he's having now, a spokesperson said the main thing is that the presidents of the United States and Russia generally hold similar views, that the temporary ceasefire options proposed by the Ukrainians and Europeans under the pretext of preparing a referendum will only prolong the conflict or risk a resumption of hostilities. Now, just to break that down briefly, the European and Ukrainian position has been have a ceasefire 60 days long, hold a referendum in Ukraine to ask the people of Ukraine about the issue of territory. Are they willing to give up that land or not? And then find out what the result of that referendum is. Well, the Russians, and according to the Russians, the Americans as well, think that's a bad idea. And instead, what should happen is that Ukraine should just give up all of that land right now. So if the Americans are really aligned with the Russians on that, well, then this meeting is not going to end well today.
Okay, those are two good ones for you. Okay, I got two biddies.
I do want to get you back into your headlines right now.
And then two first of Q's, and then we'll get to Billy. Come on.
Or income. legalized theft. In order to do what with it? Well, they say it's to pave roads and to make sure that we have a national defense, but that's all lies. It's in order to ensure that you are replaced, in order to ensure that the children of immigrants or people who are totally and completely foreign to this land, who don't want to assimilate, who don't want to become Americans, that they get your money through fraudulent payments. And in return, they'll make sure that Democrats get elected. That's how the system works. That's what's been exposed this holiday season in a Christmas bombshell. The fraud out of Minneapolis, Minnesota, ground zero for the corruption of our systems. How fraud swamped Minnesota's social services under Tim Walz's watch, written by the New York Times. That's how unignorable the fraud is. This is the single most viral story on the entire internet right now. It's been brought about by a series of fraud bombshells from the Somali community. As you can see here, there are dozens of people, 59 in total, who've been convicted of fraud schemes. They're all Somalis, and they stole billions in federal dollars, rampant theft. This is obviously being added to by the day. You can go ahead and check the DOJ's website right now. 6 additional defendants charged, pleading guilty, 78 different indictments for people who are stealing and plundering Medicaid, Medicare, welfare, COVID payment systems. You know, you wonder, wait a second, we brought people here from a fraudulent society, from Somalia, which is a failed society, a total and complete corrupt country with high inbreeding coefficients, child brides, sick practices, Sharia law, tribal warfare, total and complete dysfunction, absolute plundering and theft in every corner of the country. And we don't expect that to happen here. We just expect suddenly everybody becomes a Norman Rockwell level American. No, that's not what happened. And now, of course, this is the Christmas bombshell seen by 81 million people, 159,000 reposts, 400,000 likes, and 91,000 saves. Nick Shirley here with his bombshell investigation uncovering $100 million worth of fraud, at least in one day, just by going and visiting some daycare centers in Minnesota. The daycare centers, of course, are fake. They aren't real. They get all this money from Medicaid and Medicare. Billions of dollars exposed, and nobody has any answer to this. All that this YouTuber did, and Nick's great, he's been a friend of our show, he's been on our show, all that Nick did was just show up at the addresses. None of these addresses were real. None of them were actual daycares. Everything was fake. Everything was fraudulent, every single step of the way. Well, everyone on the internet has now been screaming about what is the federal government going to do right now. What are the feds about? Are they going to do anything? A reminder that at this time, 4 years ago, January 6th, defendants were getting raided in full-scale, kitted out, tactical FBI raids. Donald Trump was having his home raided at Mar-a-Lago. Republicans were being thrown in prison for 22, 23, 25 different years just for protesting an election. The Democrats are complete monsters when it comes to this kind of stuff, and Republicans are mice. And so I called the FBI this morning. I called a top-level official at the FBI, and I had a conversation. And I said, listen, is anything going to happen here? And here's the response that I got. You might like it. You might not like it. I'm just going to lay out what's happening, and I guess we'll let the actions speak for themselves. This is what I was told by somebody at the top level of the FBI who has an impeccable record of predicting what the agency is about to do, okay? So the first thing that they told me was that life is about to get really, really bad for Somali fraudsters and enablers, and they pointed me back to the ongoing investigations and to the prosecutions of other Somali fraudsters, saying that this is something that is truly happening right now. This FBI source told me that they have surged investigative and criminal units in Minneapolis, and that public takedowns will happen soon for Somali fraudsters. They said they're aware of Nick Shirley's viral video and that it tracks with ongoing FBI criminal work in the area. This is an exact quote. Billions in stolen federal dollars and fraudulent businesses. These are serious federal crimes that may result in severe fines, decades in prison, and potential deportations. They should result in denaturalization. You should be able to strip people of their citizenship and send them home. They brought in 80,000 Somalis into Minneapolis. There's no excuse for that. There's no reason that they should be here. Truly, I mean, really, nobody's ever explained exactly why that happened other than permanent and total fraud in an ecosystem that elects Democrats permanently in that state. This was done under Barack Obama. This was done in order to act as a blueprint for the rest of the country. To do this for the rest of the country. The system is very simple. You pay these people through fraud. You promise you won't ever investigate it. They return fraudulent votes for Democrats and make sure that Democrats get elected in landslides, or at the very least on election day that they are able to escape by, like Al Franken, who was the deciding vote for Obamacare, for instance, right? Like, this is how severe the fraud is in this country. Let's continue with what the FBI told me. The official directed me to 78 criminal indictments against Somali fraudsters who stole COVID payments as an example of what is to come. I asked them about Act Blue donations and Democrat candidates and fraudulent Somali daycares. And the official told me that this is an ongoing FBI investigation into Act Blue and to follow the money. So what we've uncovered is, and what we've seen is that people are going through Act Blue donations and finding that these fraudulent Somali daycares are donating en masse to Democrat candidates all around the country. That they're doing this in order to ensure that more Somalis get elected to Congress so that they can pass more welfare bills, so they can raise more welfare payments, and that they can get more money. It's a complete parasitic.
The worst state to live in right now is Michigan, and nobody's talking about it. I've spent 30 years in
op. It's a parasitic op. It's a parasite that is to drain the blood and drain the vitality out of the host. And that is exactly what this is. They're here. They've come here. 78% of Somalis in America are on welfare, are on more than 2 welfare programs. So, like, can anybody explain that? Like, why would you bring someone here who's just going to deplete resources? Why? And then steal resources and send them back for Islamic terrorism. Anyway, it's this is again the biggest story in the world. They're telling me that the Act Blue criminal investigation is ongoing as well. Act Blue is under criminal investigation by the FBI for fraudulent payments that may break American election law. The officials said to expect more very, very soon. So that's what the FBI has told me. Elon Musk has said that Tim Walz needs to be prosecuted, and that Tim Walz obviously was well aware of this. Tim Walz is a crook because it's true. At the tip of the vast iceberg of a fraud that Elon Musk investigated. This is very common, by the way. It says Elon Musk, of course, he's in charge of Doge. One taxpayer funded daycare after another. There are literally 0 kids, not even a few kids just for show. Tim Walz is guilty of hiding vast fraud. So we'll see. Elon Musk tends to know these things. And so do my sources at the FBI. So I guess we'll see. Again, like, I don't know. I want to just get this out there so that we can create an environment where people are not just complaining about the government doing nothing, but like pushing them to do more. So let's push them to do more. More to come on all of this, ladies and gentlemen. It's your boy Benny. Like, share, and subscribe. See ya.
Okay, the second one here. Eight minutes on this one. For satisfaction. Happy Sunday.
Even what the New York Times calls the massive fraud that has swamped Minnesota's social services system, your tax dollars flooding into the hands of Somali pirates in order for them to live lavish lifestyles, to steal your money, to send it back to Muslim terrorism in Somalia, and most importantly, to humiliate you as the American taxpayer. The administration is finally locking up these Somali fraud pirates that inexplicably we brought into our nation. Nobody ever explained to us why this had to happen or how this was supposed to make our nation better. when you bring in a culture whose sole primary occupation is piracy, a culture that has a very high inbreeding coefficient, child bride, sectarian, tribal warfare, Sharia law. Has anybody ever explained why this was supposed or how this was supposed to work? These things are illegal in America. Fraud is illegal in America. Kash Patel sounding off, saying that the FBI is now looking to potentially indict hundreds, if not thousands, of Somalis, and that denaturalization and deportation proceedings must happen. And other members of the administration, current and former, are now sounding off. Very important people, very young, clear-eyed individuals. Elon Musk saying that Tim Walz needs to be prosecuted. Obviously, Elon Musk was in charge of Doge. He saw all of this, and Elon Musk has said time and time again that this is something that is endemic. This is something that he uncovered day after day after day at Doge. Stephen Miller here saying, imagine seeing the colossal Somali welfare fraud in Minnesota and not realizing the Democrats have been committing election fraud on an equally staggering scale. Stephen Miller also saying, why was it that we brought infinity third world criminal aliens to our nation? Should somebody write an alternative historical novel where Americans are the first to master the automobile, first in flight, first to harness the atom, first to land on the moon, but we just kept going and never opted to open our borders to the third world for 60 years? Yes, exactly. Stephen Miller saying, I just watched Dean Martin and Frank Sinatra Family Christmas with my kids. Imagine watching this and thinking America needed infinity migrants from the third world. So Stephen Miller, third world posting. We could be living in a utopia. Yes, the responses to this. I've been reliably informed that the Somali Leering Center teaches these two all did it first. That's right. Yeah. Stephen Miller has been just absolutely top notch on all of this. We'd probably be $30 trillion less in debt. That's exactly right. Correct. What are you doing about it? Where's Tim Walz's mugshot? We saw Donald Trump's fake crimes. Everybody asking the same thing. What are you doing about it? Stephen Miller saying specifically that all the Somalis need to go.
We got Haitians now on the gravy train, not just eating the dogs and cats anymore.
Well, first of all, regarding the situation in Minnesota, and by the way, not just Minnesota, we have Somali refugees that were dumped here by Democrats in Ohio and Massachusetts. Let me just say, we should not be shocked when you import a population whose primary occupation is pirate, that they are going to come here and steal everything we have. Somalia has this giant coastline, and the only industry they have created after hundreds of years is piracy, stealing what anyone going through who has actually built something has made. So yes, the pirates have stolen all of our money, and they have to go home, Jesse. That's the situation we're in right now.
Well, let's do that. Let's make that actually happen. Stephen Miller describing how that has to happen.
Why are they engaged in all this? What is their objective here? It's the Somalification of America. In other words, when you see the state of Somalia, that's what they want for America at the end of the day, because it's easier to rule over an empire of ashes than it is for the Democratic Party to rule over a functioning, Western, high-trust society with a strong middle class. Look how powerful the Democrat Party became in Minnesota once they flooded it with 100,000 Somalians. Once the elections were decided, right, by clan rivalries and ethnic feuds. Once that happened, the Democrat Party became permanently powerful in Minnesota. They became permanently powerful in the Twin Cities. That's their model for America, to make the whole country into a version of Somalia. And everything they do gets down to that. So when you ask me what I'm thankful for, this Thanksgiving, I praise God every day that Donald Trump is our president.
I lost $50,000 because I didn't buy a domain name. My advice, head to Wix and grab
deportations. The potential next president of the United States, the vice president of the United States, J.D. Vance, sounding off as well. What's happening in Minnesota is a microcosm of immigration fraud around our system. Politicians like it because they get power. Welfare cheats like it because they get rich. It's a zero-sum game, and they're stealing both money and political power from Minnesotans. This dude's done more useful journalism than any winners of the 2024 Pulitzer Prize, says J.D. Vance of here, Nick Shirley, uncovering Somali fraud in Minnesota. Obviously, one of the most viral videos in the world, one of the most viral videos ever posted on X. If you haven't seen it on Nick's channel, go subscribe and give it a watch. The Secretary of Labor saying, thanks to Ilhan Omar, these politicians helped aid and abet fraudsters. Minnesota fraud network has grown into a massive scale, completely unchecked. Enough is enough. President Trump does not tolerate criminal activity in our national welfare system. The accountability is coming for everybody involved. Strong statements. The response to J.D. Vance here is, well, do something, right? This is the wholesale response to the entire federal government right now is enough tweets, right? Go do something. We want doors kicked in. We want raids. Cash should already have a task force. This investigation should not have had to be done by a YouTuber. Do not diminish Nick. He does great work. It brings shames on the FBI and DOJ. Nobody is doing this. Do you people want to be podcasters or do you want to do real jobs? I'm glad this is being fleshed out, but can we please get some messaging as to why it's so difficult to prosecute or deport fraudsters and accomplices? Keith Ellison and Ilhan Omar, is it a state jurisdiction thing? You are being slow walked in the administration. So many questions. Could you get Pon Bondi to prosecute one of them? Yes, right. We need mass raids and we need them now. Re-migration, please go home. These are the responses to JD's tweet. If this were a red state governor, the media would be calling for the resignation. Tim Walz should resign as well. So what are you guys going to do about it? 48. Besides tweet, write letters, and raise money, what are Republicans going to do about what was exposed? Please, come on, do something. Well, this is the state of the entire internet right now. We couldn't agree more. And that's why we're spending my entire Sunday making phone calls to the administration asking, what the hell exactly are you doing here? Because 50% of our income is being stolen in order to pay for Somalian children to have Bugattis here in America. Nobody can afford houses. It is like people are going to lose trust in the system and lose it at an accelerated and unsustainable pace unless something happens now. It's your boy Benny. Like, share, and subscribe. See ya.
Okay, that was Benny there. We got Q coming up.
Guys have noticed this, but Trump has changed. Yeah, he's changed a lot. And I know some of you guys are allergic to change. You don't like change. None of us love change, but he has definitely changed. And I'll explain to you how and why. Now, some of these changes were much needed. And I know that many of you guys feel that, you know, Trump was perfect in every way and he was great. And I would say that no, I think that Trump has a lot of good qualities. I think that there are some things that could definitely help him. And it seems like he's actually starting to be a little bit wiser. You know, the Bible says that we should be wise as serpents, but harmless as doves, right? And I think his wisdom is definitely starting to come out. I'll tell you where I'm going with this. So this morning we were woken up with the news that Ronna McDaniel of the RNC, that she was going to be stepping down, that she was going to be leaving her post as the chairperson of the RNC. Now, we've watched the Republicans lose time and time again since Ronna McDaniel has taken over in, I believe, 2017. She took over for Reince Priebus, and it's been a disaster. There hasn't been a good election for the Republicans since then. And so she's been an absolute disaster. And Trump said that there were going to be some major changes in the RNC. Now, there's no question that Trump has been a net positive for the Republican brand. He's brought in more voters. He's brought in more diversified voters. There are a lot. It looks a lot different now. For some people, they love that the Republican Party has changed. There's some people that hate it, like Mitch McConnell. Mitch McConnell is one of them, but also like Mitt Romney, Ronna McDaniel's uncle. Absolutely hate it. They like the good old boys club that they had, and unfortunately, they've lost that power. And the Trump party, the Republican Party, has definitely left them standing in the dust. I am Q. And
okay, that's a short one there. The next one is a little bit longer, I think. This one is almost 8 minutes. Billy will be next.
Ran their criminal enterprise, how they were using the Clinton Foundation to funnel money. There's been a whole lot of speculation about it. There's been a lot of videos made. Clinton Cash, I mean, Dinesh D'Souza has done a lot about it, but much of the evidence that was brought forth before were circumstantial. But now we have clear and concise evidence that the Clinton Foundation or the Clinton Global Initiative has been used as a means by which to launder campaign funds for both the Clintons and other Democrats, allowing the Clintons to be able to maintain in power and to maintain a certain level of influence in Washington for many, many years. I've been looking into this for a while and I'm finally ready to bring you guys some information. So on the 15th of December, there was a treasure trove of documents handed over to the Judiciary Committee in the Senate to Chuck Grassley. Now, it turns out that all of this was based around a man by the name of Sant Singh Chatwal. Now, he is an Indian businessman, owns a large hotel conglomerate. Now, he has over the years given millions and millions of dollars to the Clintons and to other Democrats as well. Now, the problem is that this has all been done for a reason. Anytime you see someone giving millions of dollars to a campaign, I don't care if they're donating to a Republican or a Democrat, they are doing it in so that they can have some influence. Sometimes that influence might actually be fair. Sometimes that influence has nefarious purposes, but they are doing it with an ulterior motive. Now, interestingly enough, this particular situation was flagged by the FBI in the New York office. They suggested that the Obama administration, clear back in 2008, do an investigation on this, and the Obama administration said no. So Clinton found herself $1 million in debt after her 2008 unsuccessful run against Barack Obama. She did not know where this money was going to come from, but Chatwell came in clutch. He decided to use a straw system and to make these donations, like I mentioned yesterday, make these donations in small amounts and to funnel them through the Clinton Foundation. Now, in doing that, he was also able to secure a very important uh, deal for himself. Now, again, we are dealing with a situation in which we are trying to put the pieces together. But interestingly enough, in exchange, he was able to secure a deal for his home country of India to allow them to acquire um, American technology in order to develop nuclear weapons for themselves. They were able to do this without ever having to sign the non-proliferation treaty, which is something that the United States very rarely or ever did before. They completely went aside or went away from their own rules and their own typical regulations in order to get this deal done. Now, everyone is pointing at Mr. Chatwell. I don't blame him. Now, he was convicted. He's a felon. He was convicted for funneling money and illegally financing campaigns. This man was just simply doing what was in his best interest for his country. At the end of the day, as far as he's concerned, he's an India first guy. The problem is we're voting for people that are supposed to be America first people.
Now, in addition to this, the Obama administration got wind of what was going on, and the Obama administration scolded Hillary Clinton. Now, these conversations have now been recorded, okay, and documented. Many of these documents were sent over way back when in 2012 or 2011 by WikiLeaks. They were.
Can you respond what you mean by that there, Love Garden? Everybody likes Q. I don't know what you mean by that. Please be respectful.
They were already leaked. Now, the interesting part about this, though, is that Obama scolded them, said, "Hey, this can't happen anymore. You cannot any money that is being put into the Clinton Global Initiative or the Clinton Foundation, any funds that are being put in there from now on need to be specifically acknowledged, and they need to be reported to the Obama administration." So shortly after doing that, the Clintons then put together the CGSGI, okay, which was the Clinton Guistra Sustainable Growth Initiative. They then put money into that fund and then used that fund to funnel money into the Clinton Foundation. Therefore, they were able to say, no, we're just putting money from one fund to the next. So they could get around having to report that to the Obama administration. Now, the question is if everything was on the up and up, why did you have to go through additional methods just to put money into a charity foundation? The reason being is there were millions and millions of dollars that were being funneled from foreign entities into the Clinton Foundation, and then being able to buy influence through the Clintons by doing this. All this is now being documented and has now been also recorded, these conversations had between her and Chatwell. And so there's no question anymore. The Clintons are 100% guilty. They are 100% implicated in all of this. And I would dare say the Obamas are implicated as well. The FBI headquarters is now all over this. They are saying they are going to dig and they are going to be questioning the Clintons. I hope that they do. But this here goes to show and prove that the Clintons were involved in a pay-to-play scheme that was used to funnel money not only to themselves, to enrich themselves, but also to enrich other Democrats and give them campaign financing that they wouldn't have otherwise had. Let me know what you guys think about this. Comment below. I'll see you guys next time. Be blessed.
Okay, we got Billy Bean coming up. Hey, DDG, $4. Texas. It's been a long time. Yep, same to you. Thanks for coming in. Minutes on this one.
U.S. banks, what's happening?
The YouTube
A
lady will
major
be up
U.S.
next.
bank, we understand, overnight had to liquidate. And the deep state, what's going on with control over the world, including many areas in the U.S., including Nigeria and Venezuela. Credible terror hits, threats have come forth, and some major cities are canceling New Year's Eve celebrations. So let's get started. So we know last May 2024, So a year ago in 2024, in May, we had a G5 geomagnetic storm, one of the strongest we've experienced in modern history. Now, NASA is coming out with a report after they analyzed thousands of planes that were in the air when the G5 geomagnetic storm was occurring. And their finding is that the G5 geomagnetic storm affected the GPS on the planes to the extent that the pilot would see his or her location as being hundreds of miles from where the plane actually was located. So yeah, that's going on. Another thing to be aware of when we have future strong geomagnetic storms, it will affect the GPS on planes and cars, boats and trains, and so on. And now we have this. Okay. We know that events are going on in space. We still have the U.S. military defending the Earth in a planetary defense operation Star Shield against Atlas, which is believed to be an interstellar spacecraft, most likely operated by the Anunnaki fallen angels. So we have the U.S. military continuing to defend the Earth. And we have this. So we have events going on in space that are affecting the Earth, and we're seeing earthquakes of an unusual order. Now, we have California, we have Washington State, Alaska, the Russia Peninsula, Japan, China, Taiwan. In Taiwan, we've seen since about Wednesday or Thursday several significant earthquakes. We had a 6.0, we had a 6.6, and then in the last few hours, we've had a 7.0. So that's going on. So we have in Taiwan, just recently in last few hours, we had a 7.0 at 73 kilometers depth. We had yesterday a 6.6 at 67 kilometers depth. We had on Thursday a 6.1 at 10 kilometers depth. Now this is affecting, and we see continued hits and vibrations on tectonic plates. We know we have the American plate, the Pacific plate, plus other little plates in this area. And we understand these major plates are shifting. We see these ongoing earthquakes on Taiwan as indicators of continued seismic activity. We see in California, especially around San Francisco, continued small swarms. We had yesterday a 3.7. The swarm, we had 11 earthquakes in a row, a swarm within several hours of the 3.7, magnitude 2.5 and up. So we see the ring of fire being affected. Now, as I've been putting out, these space cycles are affecting the Earth, affects our economy, affects our military. So what's going on with the world? We see some would say, oh, this must be a conspiracy, but I believe it's true. We see the deep state City of London financial operation
Hi, I'm JT, and I made Result Hunter, the search engine for conservatives. Let me just tell you what it does. First of all,
Trying to control the earth in terms of banks and war. And we have these operations going on through China, Iran, Russia, plus definitely in a coordinated attack on America. America is the only nation under God that stands between the deep state, New World Order. So it would be good for us to pray against what's happening. But I submit this is a coordinated global program operating in multiple nations with the objective being to destroy America. And one way is to take down U.S. banks. Now, we saw China on Friday manipulating the price of silver. We know that banks and the Fed have a certain amount of assets in gold and silver. So on Friday, China in the U.S., so on Friday, we had silver in the U.S. at $70 an ounce. That was a big increase. We had China taking it to 80 to 85. On Friday, the U.S. Federal Reserve had to pump cash money into U.S. banks, $17 billion. Over the weekend, China, on behalf of the deep state, once again increased the price of silver up to $90 an ounce. Overnight, the U.S. Fed had to pump in additional money to U.S. banks, $34 billion. Now, it's coming out from Hal Turner's intel that a major global U.S. bank, about 2:45 in the morning, this morning, had to be liquidated because the bank could not meet its margin on silver. I submit this is a deep state plot being put forth by China to destroy the U.S. banking system. But there are safeguards against this type thing. They can slow trading, stop trading, and so on. So that's going on. But it is a part of the global plan to destroy America. Now, let's talk about President Trump's recent hit on Nigeria in Africa. And this is all part of a U.S. military political plan by President Trump and the U.S. military that will be operating on a global basis because the U.S. recognizes that we are fighting against multiple nations. Nigeria ties into what's going on in Venezuela. So Nigeria, I have a Nigeria contact inside the U.S. who verifies, yes, the deep state had been putting forth in Nigeria ISIS and Boko Haram to slaughter Christians. Now, my source says in the eastern part of Nigeria, 98% of the population are Christian. In the northwest part, there are tens of thousands of Christians. The deep state, we make-believe who worships Satan, of course, wants to wipe out all Christians everywhere. These two groups, ISIS and Boko Haram, have been doing that in northwest Nigeria. This is where President Trump...
You make time for everything except yourself. That's why eHarmony created an approach to dating that fits.
Ordered the U.S. military to strike. He gave warning to the Nigerian government. We believe the Nigerian government is also under the control of the deep state. Now, we have other things going on concurrent with the Venezuela operation by the U.S. military in Africa as a strike against China, Iran, and some segments of Russia who are coordinating military operations against the U.S., as well as economic hits on our banks. So we see in South Africa, we recently saw President Trump confronting publicly in the White House in a meeting with the leader of South Africa, Ramaphosa. Ramaphosa appears to be a pawn for China, for the deep state, by being a conduit for fentanyl from China to be sent to the U.S. to kill American citizens. It is now believed that President Trump most likely will go for regime change in South Africa and place a bounty on Ramaphosa as he's placed a bounty on Maduro. So that's going on. We also have the U.S. operating in operations in the Congo and Rwanda, and definitely Somali. Now, in Somali, we have the deep state operating, and also the deep state operating through the Somali population.
Okay, we got breaking news, guys. Hold on.
Thought to happen. And I spoke with President Putin. I got along with him very well, despite the Russia hoax, which was a total hoax. He used to say, what is going on over there? But it was a total hoax, as he knew and as I knew. But I spoke to him and would talk about Ukraine. I've said it before. It was the apple of his eye, but he wasn't going to do anything about it. He didn't do anything about it until I was gone. And then a lot of really bad statements were made by people. By a lot of people, I guess, but by a certain president that we had who was a disaster. Yes.
Anticipate going to Ukraine if you can get to an agreement? And
I'd have no problem with doing it. You know, I have no problem with doing it. Don't anticipate it. Would like to get the deal done and not necessarily have to go. I've offered to go and speak to their parliament. And, you know, if that would help, I don't know if that would help. I think it would probably help, but I don't even know if that's...
You're welcome.
Yeah, no, I know.
Always.
So I'm not sure that it would be really necessary, but if it would help save 25,000 lives a month or whatever it may be, I would certainly be willing to do that. Yeah, please. No, behind you. Where are you from?
From Ukraine.
Good, I had a feeling. Good.
How about Zaporizhzhia nuclear plant? Have you started discussions?
On what?
Zaporizhzhia nuclear plant.
Yeah, we discussed that at length today. As you know, it's in pretty good shape. It can start up immediately, almost immediately. And it's one of the things I discussed with President Putin. And they were talking about the nuclear plant. That's probably the biggest in the world, just about the biggest anywhere in the world. Can you believe that? And President Putin's actually working with Ukraine on getting it open. He's been very good in that sense. He wants to see that open. He hasn't hit it with missiles, hasn't hit it with anything. It's a big danger to do that for everybody. But they're working together to try and get it. It can open very quickly. It's in pretty good shape. And the people there have been there for years. The people there running it, they have 5,000 people in that plant. Can you believe it? I learned that today. 5,000 people. It's the biggest plant of its kind in the world. And they're working together to get it open. They could maybe get it open quickly. That's a big step when he's not bombing that plant. It's a big step.
In the readout from Moscow, they talked about the creation of some working groups.
Yes.
That would be set. Can you tell us about what those working groups
Sure.
would entail? And also, if you wouldn't mind, what is the message that you will give to Putin when you speak to him after your meeting?
So the working group is going to be composed of Steve Witkoff, Jared Kushner, General Raisin Kane, Marco Rubio, and a few other people that we're going to be putting onto it. I think Pete Hegseth should be in that working group. He knows the territory very well. He's been fantastic at what he's doing. And they may add one or two people. And likewise, Ukraine's going to have some very good people that were at lunch today that enjoyed the lunch today a lot, more than they thought, right? But do you want to say who may be on your working group?
Yeah, we now, as I said, that we work with Steve and Jared. We worked our Rustem Umerov and also Deputy Minister Kislitsa and also General Ignatov, and they will continue work in this group. And of course, if we will go further, and I hope that really we will have decisions in January, as I said, about all these documents, 6 documents. And of course, we will continue work on this so they know what to do. Yes.
And that working group, by the way, importantly, will also then be working with Russia. Okay? Because to work with ourselves doesn't really solve much of a problem. So they'll be working with Russia. Yeah, please.
This morning you weren't a deadline guy. How long do you think it'll take to get this last little bit, as you say, finished? What are we talking about?
So if it went really well, maybe a few weeks. And if it went poorly, longer. And if it went really poorly, it's not going to happen. That would be a shame. There's that chance also. It's possible it doesn't happen. But, in a few weeks, we will know one way or the other, I think. But if it went really well, but it could also go poorly. I mean, we could have something where one item that you're not thinking about is a big item breaks it up. Look, it's been a very difficult negotiation, very detailed. It's funny, I settled 8 wars. Some were going on for 35 years. And we got them settled in a couple of days. Some of them, one was going on for 37 years. I settled it in 1 day. But this is a very complex one.
What the bad
No, I think we'll get it done. I don't want to say when, but I think we're going to get it done. Yes, ma'am.
Mr. President, you in the past have suggested a trilateral meeting between both President Putin and Zelensky. Is
Right.
that something that is also on the docket?
I see that happening, sure, at the right time. I saw a very interesting President Putin today. I mean, he wants to see it happen. He wants to see it. He told me very strongly. I believe him. Don't forget, we went through the Russia hoax together. And he'd call me, I'd call him, I'd say, can you believe the stuff that they're making up? And it turned out we were right. They made it all up. And despite that, we didn't get into wars and we didn't get into problems, but we weren't able to trade very much or any of that, which was a shame because, a lot of success could have been had by trading with Russia. They have great land, great minerals and other things, and we have things that they want very badly. But the Russia hoax, which was a terrible made-up fictional thing by Crooked Hillary and by Adam Shifty Schiff and bad people, sick people, they made it up. It was all a made-up hoax, but it kept us really from dealing with Russia, kept Russia dealing, from dealing with us. So, but despite that, we got along, and I don't know. I think we're going to get there. I know him very well. I think we're going to get there.
Discuss any time, location, meeting place?
Yeah, we're discussing a lot of things. Look, I was on the phone with him for almost, 2.5 hours. They're just telling me now. It's a long time. We discussed a lot of things. We didn't talk about the weather. We weren't talking about what a beautiful day it is in Palm Beach, Florida. Yes.
Trump, President Zelensky mentioned.
You guys want me to continue or go back to Intel?
And maybe a meeting with European leaders back in Washington. Would that be in the next few weeks?
Well, in Washington or someplace, yeah. These leaders that I just read, these are great people. You know, they've spent a lot of money on helping Ukraine. And look, they're doing it for themselves also, meaning their country, because Ukraine's a very important country for them in particular. For us, it's very important. To me, it's the lives. You know, we're thousands and thousands of miles. We're protected by a thing called the Atlantic Ocean and lots of other places, to be honest. And they're not, you know, they're right there.
Oh, we got
We're
one
working
and one
together with them
Intel
as we
and
should be.
continue.
But I'm doing it to save lives. You know,
Yeah,
we're not
get a
spending
few
any
more
money.
votes.
Biden gave $350 billion away. And the president was nice enough to give us a contract to take out rare earth and things. So we'll see how that all works out. We have a contract, but we appreciated that. He was very good. But we'll see how that works out. But if you think about it, we're
He's
going to
really not
have.
saying much.
I really believe we're probably, Mr. President, by far closer than ever before with both parties. We had some times when he was close and President Putin wasn't. Then when President Putin was close and he wasn't. You saw that in the White
we all
House.
do.
But I think they both want to see it happen.
In your conversation with
You were saying that you've said multiple times that you want to stop the killing, and nearly 100 American citizens died in Ukraine over that.
Yeah.
What's your message?
Few more minutes, you guys.
Loved ones died by.
Well, look, I mean, the message is so obvious. It's what a shame. They died in a foreign country. And some are celebrated people. They're very celebrated. But so sad that a thing like that would happen. Yes, ma'am.
Obviously, security is a major issue for the Ukrainians.
Right.
Did you offer any promises, any assurances today?
Well, I did. We want to work with Europe. And Europe is going to take over a big part of it, as you can imagine. You know, they're right there. But we're going to help Europe 100%, like they'd help us.
Well, we got to hear about 5 minutes. So it didn't look like they're going to end the war today. And looks like it's going to go on more.
In Michigan, we saw recently billions of dollars of fraud being proven that had been put forth by Somali individuals in Michigan against the U.S. federal government via welfare and so on. It's now coming out that the billions of dollars stolen from the U.S. government is being coordinated by the City of London via Somali into the U.S. to pay for.
Join Planet Fitness for $1 down, $15 a month, and pay nothing until January 17th. Deal ends December 31st.
Are you worried that using your home address for business puts your privacy at risk? At iPostal One,
Somali terrorist hits on American citizens.
Got 3 minutes on
So
this.
that's going on.
The YouTube lady up
And
next.
President Trump has also put a U.S. military strike on ISIS jihadists inside Somalia. So that's going on. And we have this, that China and Iran are coordinating with Somalia, South Africa, Nigeria, Venezuela, and so on to bring down the United States of America. So that's going on. And we have this from Michael Jaco talking about the U.S. military strike on Nigeria that happened Christmas Eve. It was to hit the ISIS Boko Haram terrorists who were slaughtering Christians. And also a hit was done on ISIS in Somalia. And that the Michigan Somali fraud of welfare was to fund Somali terrorists killing American citizens inside the U.S. And we have this. Now there have been credible threats against New Year's Eve celebrations coming out, tracked by the FBI, CIA, and so on. And one group that has been named is called Turtle Island Group, who it's believed are in possession of weapons of mass destruction that are supposedly to be used on New Year's Eve celebrants. So coming up in Chicago and New Orleans, and right here, New Orleans in Louisiana, right next to Houston, where we also have 3 tankers the U.S. military has taken belonging to China. Some individuals are putting forth the possibility that one could be a Trojan horse to blow up in the port of Houston, Galveston. I believe BP Earthwatch put that forth. We also have threats against major global cities on New Year's Eve by the deep state operatives, including the cities of Bali, Belgrade, Hong Kong, Sydney, Paris, Jakarta, and Tokyo. So it's good to be in prayer for America, President Trump, the U.S. military, and world peace. I love you, and I'll see you soon.
Okay, that was the week for today. Now we're doing the YouTube lady. Much more stuff coming still. Go ahead and go. Chico. Twenty-five minutes. Short clips will be next.
When he went to pay, the tablet displayed the tipping options. The choices included 50, 70, and 90% tipping options.
At this point, tipping is no longer about appreciation. It's about pressure. Tipping used to be showing appreciation for good service. Now it's expected just for existing in public. From pressure to tip in drive-thrus to self-checkout screens where we've never even interacted with another person. Today, we are reacting to how tipping culture has gone completely off the rails.
I am literally checking myself out for my chicken at this machine, and it's asking me if I'd like to tip. I am literally checking.
You can't make it up. You can't make it up. So the caption says, "We have to end tipping culture. This is out of control. I'm at LAX at a self-serve kiosk with no employees." So they're in an airport. First of all, at an airport, you're overpaying for any sort of food or beverage as it is. But now, while helping yourself and finding what you want and then paying for it and never interacting with another human being, you're being asked to tip. Are they for real?
For what?
Thank you for your service. Oh, thanks for your support. Wait, hold on.
Oh, so yeah, you're expected to tip after giving your appreciation. Ooh, that's the way it feels. That's the way it feels, right?
Yeah, I don't see her yet.
Are you okay? Yeah. All right, so I was just gonna ask you a quick question right there.
I mean, again, you're welcome for saving your life, even though it's my job. Here's your tip options.
Here's your check. Suggested gratuity is $100. And let's say that you did tip me that $100. It would have been a pleasure to serve you. If you don't tip me the $100, then stop. So yeah, let's get it done.
Just look at this madness from the United States of America. This is a tip that you can leave after your meal or your drinks, whatever it was. The only one that they say thank you on is a 100% tip. 30% is so-so. 30% tip. 40% is okay. 50% of the bill is good. And 100%. So you go out for a meal that costs you $100, you're going to pay $200. That's the only one that say thank you. Holy shit. Has anybody seen this in real life? Oh, I ain't paying that.
So obviously we don't know what this screen is for. It's a $95 charge for something. Maybe it's something like a haircut or whatever. I have said this in the last tipping video that I did. I am a good tipper. I am probably an over tipper, but there are certain services I will not tip for. And those are the services where I didn't get any service. And I don't do 100% tip. I really don't, unless I go somewhere and I have a gift card, or I go somewhere and I'm using reward points, because I don't think that a server should have to deal with a lower dollar amount because I got discounted food. Now, I'm also that person, if a restaurant screws my food up and they make me fresh food and then they take it off my check, I will give that to the server. Like, that's just the kind of tipper I am. But I am not about ready to tip $95 on a $95 service. Expecting a 100% tip, that's too much. That's way, way too much.
Any people that work in the restaurant industry to chime in here.
Here and ready to chime.
I'm a very good tipper, but I'm tipping the waitress that waits on me, the person that gives me service.
This right away is a common misconception because remember, yes, you are tipping your waitress that gives you service, but they are also tipping out everybody that supported them, all of their support staff, most likely.
I don't like that. I don't like pooled tips. We're gonna hear her out, but I don't like pooled tips because full disclosure, I have never been a server, nor have I ever ran a restaurant, right? Servers are paid significantly less because they basically make their wage off of tips. Do bussers get paid like waitresses? Do bartenders get paid like waitresses? Do the cooks get paid like waitresses? If they don't, why are they splitting my waitress's tips? Riddle me that. But we're going to hear her out. We're going to see what she has to say to educate us on this whole tip pooling thing.
So they are tipping out a busser. They are tipping out a food runner. They are tipping out a bar. They are tipping out, a hostess maybe. But continue.
When did it become customary for you to walk into a restaurant and pick up a pickup order and then to expect a tip?
Tipping on to-go orders have always been a thing, but definitely more recently it has become, honestly, like, I'm sorry, my people who work in the restaurant who are doing the to-go orders, the tipping for you guys has gotten a little inflated if we really look at everything. But first let's break down why you guys do deserve a tip, because I do think that to-go food does deserve something. Usually the people that are handling the to-go foods, even though I know a lot of people do online orders, a lot of people still call. So they are usually handling the phones and taking people's orders that way. They're also usually packaging up the food. They're making sure your order's right, and then they're usually cashing you out. So they are doing something. They're not just handing you a to-go box, right? That being said, like I said, I do think the tipping, like it used to be, you just left them a couple dollars every time. $2, $3, no matter how big your order was. Now when you go to check out with to-go, it's like starting at 20%. My question is, this is why I think it's got, like, we're a little skewed here. Why is then waitresses and bartenders who are doing full service getting 20% at the same time? Because that's not the same thing, right? Taking care of somebody for an hour and a half to 2 hours, giving them full service is not the same thing as packaging up a to-go order. You see? So I understand the frustration, of course. I see it too. I do still tip on to-go orders. I will do anywhere from 10 to 20%, even though I don't necessarily think I should have to do the 20%. I know that a lot of people don't tip on to-go orders. I'm in the restaurant industry. I feel like it's my way to pay it forward. So a lot of times I will tip a 20% when I'm just doing to-go orders.
Holiday crazy!
This year's cancelled.
Confident. I'm talking about confident. Baby, I'm confident.
But I don't think it should be mandatory. I don't think that people should feel obligated. I think a 5 to 10% tip is what is fair for everybody when it comes to what they're doing, what is expected, how much effort they have to put in for each order. It's because restaurants don't want to pay people full wages.
Ding, ding, ding. Like, let's get to the root of all of this, shall we? Let's get to the root of the whole thing. Restaurants don't want to pay fair wages. They want their customers to cover their staff's wages. Period. Bottom line. End of story. Let's stop rationalizing and justifying this behavior, shall we?
Do not tip on another meal before you watch this because you might be over tipping. Watch. 15% of $27 is not $6. 18% of $27 is not $7. So he spent $27 and he put 15%, which brought it to $6.22 for a tip. It should have only been $4.05. So where's that extra $2.17 coming from? Then he put in 18% and he got $7.47. And that's only $4.86. And yet magically $7.47. Magically. And finally put in 20% and he got $8.30, which is $5.40. So where's the rest of the $2.90 coming from? Who knows? But
yeah, this is not a new thing. I think it was the video that I did that was check your receipts. I did it a while back. If I remember when I'm uploading this, I will link the video down in the video description or up here in the iCard somewhere. There was so many discrepancies that people were finding at places like Chili's, Texas Roadhouse. I think if I remember correctly, don't quote me. I think those were two of them, where if you just select the percentage, the actual tip amount was incorrect. It's like, where are these extra dollars coming from? And you have to wonder, is this intentional on the part of the restaurant? Or did they just set up all of the back-end calculations incorrectly? And that's the big question. Is it intentional? Is it just a computer error? We don't know which one it is. So always check the math. Me, I hate hitting those buttons because I have trust issues. So usually I'll just do custom and enter my own number because then I know that I'm tipping what I actually wanted to tip.
Well, I'm gonna do it anyway.
What? Tip screen, self-service pumps at a gas station? Valero, do better.
We got 2 of the 3 for me's for $10.99. We got free chips and salsa, and we also got a free dessert for my birthday month. So it was $22.48 for the 5 of us, $24.34 with tax. The 20% would be $6.85, and that includes the free chips and salsa into that amount because obviously this would only be like 4.
That's 28%.
Yeah, so this is technically for 28%, but we're gonna do custom and we're just gonna go $10 for a tip. So our total is $34.34.
Yeah, so the person posting this says, how much would you tip on this tab? I think she's spot on. I probably would have tipped like $10. I would have tipped $10. Sometimes I don't like to personally, and I might be part of the problem here. I am self-aware enough to see I might be the problem here because I am an over-tipper. Like I said, I over-tip. Sometimes I prefer to not tip a percentage of the dollar amount because, like I said, I like to use rewards and loyalty programs. If I have a gift card, something like that, I don't want my server's tip to be lessened because something was taken off my check because food was wrong. Maybe I used some loyalty points. So a lot of the times I will tip based on the service provided. Like if I'm out to dinner, it doesn't matter how much my check was. If I'm out to dinner and they're constantly refilling my drinks, they brought me my food, they kept checking in, they made awesome suggestions, they're super friendly, I will tip based on the experience, not the dollar amount on the check. So the fact that the total here was $24 and they got a whole bunch of free stuff for her birthday, loyalty points, rewards, and all of that, I think $10 is an adequate tip. I probably would have done the same thing. What would you have tipped?
Check it out, guys. This is how we pay here in America. You can see all the three options for tipping. 20% used to be the high end, 18% was okay service, and 15% was just, your baseline. But now they want 25%, which, So the total here was $69 after it was all said and done, $93. You don't see that in Europe, guys. We need to get better.
When I saw the domain was available, I was like, I'm taking it, I'm trademarking it, I'm going with it. Hi, I'm Aaron.
That's the thing too. Other countries, there's no tipping. It's like an American thing. Am I wrong? I think America is literally the only country that has tipping culture. Am I wrong? I don't think any other country does it like this. I mean, yes, there might be tips, but it's not as expected as it is in America. I think that's why it's gotten so out of hand, because it's expected and we're guilt tripped into tipping, even when there was no service provided.
Man on Reddit is going viral. He went to get a walk-in haircut, okay? $15. When he went to pay, the tablet displayed the tipping options. The choices included 50, 70, and 90 options.
I would never go back to this purchase. $15 for a haircut, though. I'll take it.
That's what I'm saying. That's reasonable.
But here's the thing.
But you would
leave
tip.
it up to me.
Yes.
That if you're going to charge me $15, I'll give you 50%. I'll give you 30% because I'm still saving money.
Yeah.
You got it. If you give me only that option, now it's spite time. Now it's spite time. You might get the last $15 out of my pocket. I will never come back that you gave me that option. Don't put that thing in my face and force me to tip. I'm going to tip you based on your skills and what you do. And even if you stink and you serve me the wrong food, I'm still going to give you 25%. When I go to pick up a coffee or a piece of pizza, don't flip that thing in my face. You get no tip. No soup for you.
I think he's 100% right. I think that it's starting to get to the point now where people are not tipping just to spite these businesses because of the audacity. It's the audacity to expect a 90% tip, to put it on the screen and flip it around and put it in your face. That kind of audacity will cause spite in customers. Give me the option to be generous. Don't expect it, because when you expect it, you tend to get less. Just saying.
It's to the bill. He's saying they didn't add the tip to the bill because they said 18% will be added to checks over $50 or more. But our check was $49 and they added it. They added the cargo port service. I think that's like, I don't know what to say, but I know that 18% of $49 is $8 and some change. And then that's the tax. So they added it. They already added the tip.
Yeah, $50 or more, including sales tax. Yeah, for a $49 subtotal, you got to add sales tax to that. Throws you over $50, and then boom, 18% automatic gratuity. And also, here's the thing too. I don't think I'm going to do a whole video about it, so maybe I'll just include it right here. But there are a lot of restaurants and services that are provided where they slip the gratuity in your receipt, and they are hoping, at least allegedly, in my opinion, they're hoping that you don't notice that the gratuity is just slipped into your receipt automatically and that you'll still continue to tip on top of that. We have seen that where there will be actual receipts that have the gratuity in them, and then at the bottom, it'll literally say gratuity not included. When if you actually look at the receipt, you can clearly see that gratuity is included, and they're just trying to get one over on us. Don't appreciate it. Don't appreciate being gaslit.
Did a DoorDasher really just message me and ask me to send them an additional tip because I live far away? I'm like 15 minutes from the restaurant that I ordered the food from. First of all, if the order was too far for you, why did you accept it? Second of all, this was a $30 order and I gave them a $10 tip. That's a third of my order. Are you freaking kidding me? And you got the audacity to ask me for more money? And my food was cold. Had another fun tipping trauma today. I went to the vape store. I go to the same one every single time, and I get the same thing every single time. I walk in, I say what I want, they hand it to me, I pay, end of story. But today was a little different. There was a new person working. I went in, I bought 4 of the item that I normally get. And this time when I got to the tipping screen, the person stopped me and said, I would normally give you a discount because you bought 4, but if you bless me, I'll bless you. Well, I skipped past the tipping page because I walked in, I said what I want, dude handed it to me, didn't even have to move from the spot he was in, and I don't really feel that deserves a tip, so I went on. He said, oh, too bad for you. I bless people who bless me, so no discount for you today.
What? Okay, so what would you call that? It's not extortion. It's the way I take it. He was basically saying, if you give me a tip, I'll give you a discount. So you end up kind of paying the same anyway. That's kind of where I was thinking that this employee was kind of going. Am I totally off base? What do you think? Let me know in the comments. Kind of like for example, if your total is $75 and they want a $25 tip, if you give them a $25 tip, they'll give you a discount and drop it down to $50. So $50 plus your $25 tip equals $75. You're still paying the same amount, but you're padding the pockets of the employee to get that discount. So it's like not really helping you at all, but it's almost like greasing the palms of the employee. I don't know.
We're moving on. Now 20 minutes right there.
It's officially toast. She is back on the tour circuit, serving up fear, confusion, and contradictions, calling President Trump a tyrant and comparing our democracy to communist dictators. And wait until you hear the latest insult she just hurled at you, the American people. Meanwhile, President Trump took on the United Nations, flinging insults faster than a Twitter troll on caffeine. Plus, Jimmy Kimmel set to hit the airwaves tonight as Disney finally issues its first statement on the controversy. And then the verdict is in for Ryan Ruth, the man accused of attempting to assassinate the president. And wait until you hear the crazy move he made after the verdict was read. All that and much more right here on The Carrie Lane Show. As always, make sure you like and subscribe to the channel. And if you're feeling brave today, go ahead, share it with a liberal friend who desperately needs to hear the facts, something we know the left seems to be allergic to. Kamala Harris, one of the worst sufferers of that allergy. She decided it was a brilliant idea to throw her Democratic friends and even her former boss right under the bus, all while taking zero accountability and twisting her answers into something completely unrealistic and disingenuous. And if that wasn't enough, she doubled down by stoking fires with dangerous, reckless rhetoric. Watch this.
And right now we are dealing with, as I called him at my speech on the ellipse, a tyrant. We used to compare the strength of our democracy to communist dictators. That's what we're dealing with right now, Donald Trump.
I used to chalk this up to ignorance, but not anymore, because I don't think they're as clueless as I initially thought. I think this is actually deliberate. They are amplifying rage to rile up their activists and to manufacture crisis. See, they want chaos in the streets because chaos keeps them relevant and flushes donations into their pockets. But even more, I think they actually want to see our president taken out, and they're not even trying to hide it. The other thing Kamala isn't able to hide is her lack of intelligence. Watch Rachel Maddow suggest that Kamala didn't pick Pete Buttigieg as her VP because he's gay, even though she wrote that exact thing in her book. And then after she denies that was the case, but then she quickly tells the story of exactly how that was the case. You confused? Maybe this will help.
I guess I'd ask you to just elaborate on that a little bit. It's hard to hear.
Yeah.
With you running as, you're the first woman elected vice president. You're a Black woman and a South Asian woman elected to that high office, very nearly elected president. To say that he couldn't be on the ticket effectively because he was gay, it's hard to hear.
No. That's not what I said. That he couldn't be on the ticket because he is gay. My point, as I write in the book, is that I was clear that in 107 days, in one of the most hotly contested elections for president of the United States, against someone like Donald Trump, who knows no floor, to be a Black woman running for president of the United States and as a vice presidential running mate, a gay man, with the stakes being so high, it made me very sad, but I also realized it would be a real risk. No matter how, I've been an advocate and an ally of the LGBT community my entire life. So it wasn't about any prejudice on my part.
So is she really saying it's the voters who are prejudiced, not her? That's not just a gaffe. That is an insult. She's pretending to be innocent while openly questioning the judgment of millions of Americans. Imagine if the shoe was on the other foot. A Republican would be scrutinized for saying anything of the sort. This is partly why she lost. America doesn't need leaders who blame the people of their own failures. We saw that for 4 years under the Biden administration. Instead, we want leaders who actually trust and respect the voters. And that's why Donald Trump is back in the White House. Even some in Kamala's own party are telling her it's time to ride off into the sunset, though knowing her, she'll probably get lost somewhere around high noon.
She ends up calling Biden reckless for staying in the race, saying having only 107 days to run for president somehow handicapped her. She doesn't have a future in my party or any party.
I'm not sure what Kamala expected after smearing just about everybody in her party. Now, she also called President Biden's decision to seek re-election recklessness, writing, quote, "Was it grace or was it recklessness? In retrospect, I think it was recklessness. The stakes were simply too high." And then Harris addressed major criticism of Biden's decline while in office, admitting at 81, Joe got tired. That's when his age showed in physical and verbal stumbles. Well, here's how she tried to answer for all of that just this morning.
Do you regret not voicing your opinion in that moment?
Yes, and I actually have reflected on that, and I've written about that. I realized.
Would it have mattered if you did?
I don't know. Was that grace to not bring it up to him, or was it reckless? And on my part, I do reflect on that and feel that there was a recklessness about not raising it with him. I talk about what was going through my head, right? And what was going through my head to not bring it up was that it would come off as being very self-serving and therefore maybe lack the credibility that it deserved. But I do think about it.
Does she forget we have tape? Because here's a flashback of Kamala Harris repeatedly defending Joe Biden's fitness for office. Roll it.
Are you prepared to be commander-in-chief?
Yes, I am, if necessary. But Joe Biden is going to be fine.
I just don't understand about this age thing with Joe Biden, President Biden.
Let's not get distracted. Let's look at whether we have a president who has actually produced and followed through on his commitments. Joe Biden has done that. That's the measure of the man, not what's on his birth certificate in terms of his age.
Joe Biden is extraordinarily strong.
We all saw with our own eyes that Joe Biden wasn't fit to be president. And when Kamala was pressed on how she thought he could possibly run the country another 4 years if she didn't even think he was fit to run for president, well, here's how she explained that one.
It is one thing to have the capacity to govern. It is another thing to go through an election for president of the United States. So you are an athlete. You may appreciate this kind of metaphor. Running for president of the United States is like being in a marathon at a sprinter's pace with people throwing tomatoes at you every step you take. It is not for the lighthearted. It takes an incredible amount of endurance and stamina. And can you imagine doing it while you are also carrying literally the weight of the world as being president of the United States? So the distinction I make is about capacity to be president and what that election would require in that campaign, especially running against Donald Trump.
She literally just argued that running a campaign is harder than running the country for 4 years. Really? So dodging tomatoes on the campaign trail is tougher than dealing with China, Russia, Iran, and inflation all at once. By that logic, we should replace the president with someone who can run a 5K while holding a cup of coffee. Much more challenging, obviously. Now, speaking of athleticism, President Trump proved his own today during an abrupt stop on the escalator with Melania this morning. And then he wasted no time roasting the United Nations for that, as well as other incompetent moves. If cackling Kamala's career wasn't already over.
Okay, that's one. I'm going to go ahead and go to another one here. About, I'm not sure how long it was. $15 minutes.
Officials say 2 more people are expected to be arrested shortly. These arrests were the results of multiple early morning raids. Only our cameras were recording this morning as these raids took dangerous drugs and guns off the street.
So now they're coming in by land. And even the land is concerned because I told them that's going to be next. You know, the land is going to be next. And we may go to the Senate, we may go to the, Congress and tell them about it. But I can't imagine they'd have any problem with it.
School bus drivers were smuggling drugs while your children sat 3 feet away. For 3 years, 56 drivers across the Houston metro area transported cocaine, methamphetamine, and fentanyl on school buses, the same buses that picked up your kids every morning. They hid drugs in compartments under seats where children sat. They made transfers in school parking lots while students boarded, and they endangered thousands of children daily for $670 million in cartel payments. Your child rode to school on a mobile drug warehouse. The FBI just arrested every single driver in the largest school transportation corruption case in American history. 67 pounds of fentanyl found in buses that transported elementary school students. And something agents discovered proves these drivers knew exactly what they were doing and didn't care that your kids were at risk. Subscribe to Truth America right now because this will infuriate every parent in America. Here's what happened. Safe Ride Transportation was founded in 2015 as a private school bus contractor serving the Houston Independent School District and surrounding suburban districts. The company operated 340 school buses transporting approximately 28,000 students daily across Harris County, Texas. But in 2021, Safe Ride's owner, Marcus Chen, made a decision that would turn his transportation company into a criminal enterprise. Approached by Sinaloa cartel operatives seeking transportation infrastructure in Houston, Chen accepted $12 million to allow his buses to be used for drug smuggling. His reasoning was simple and sociopathic. School buses are never searched. Law enforcement doesn't stop school buses. And the presence of children provided perfect cover. Who would suspect drugs were being transported alongside elementary school students? Chen recruited 56 of his 340 drivers into the conspiracy over an 18-month period. He targeted drivers with financial problems, criminal histories that hadn't appeared in background checks, or simply those willing to risk children's safety for money. Each driver was offered $40,000 to $80,000 annually, doubling or tripling their $35,000 base salary to transport drugs on their routes. The system Chen designed was shockingly brazen. Cartel operatives would load drugs into school buses at depot locations before morning routes began. Drivers would complete their routes, picking up children, transporting them to school, with drugs hidden in compartments beneath seats, in emergency supply boxes, or in the driver's personal bags. After dropping students at school, drivers would proceed to cartel transfer points, often parking lots of abandoned buildings, where drugs were unloaded. Afternoon routes worked in reverse, drugs loaded after school drop-offs, transferred during evening hours. The buses themselves became mobile drug warehouses. Mechanics working for Safe Ride installed hidden compartments in 56 buses, beneath floor panels, behind wall panels, in modified luggage racks. These compartments could hold 30 to 50 pounds of drugs each. Children sat inches away from cocaine, methamphetamine, and fentanyl, completely unaware their school bus had been weaponized against their safety. Over 3 years, the 56 corrupt drivers transported an estimated $670 million worth of drugs across Houston. The operation averaged 340 kilograms of narcotics monthly moving through school buses. The investigation that would expose this grotesque betrayal began in April 2024, when DEA agents conducting surveillance on a suspected cartel transfer location observed something that made their blood run cold. A school bus pulling into an abandoned warehouse parking lot at 9:47 a.m. Well after morning school routes should have ended. The bus sat for 12 minutes. 2 men approached, opened the luggage compartments, removed several large bags, and left. The bus drove away. DEA immediately contacted FBI and Houston Police Department. If school buses were being used for drug transportation, children were in danger. The agencies formed an emergency task force combining FBI, DEA, ICE, and Houston police resources with one mission: determine the scope and shut it down immediately. Surveillance teams followed the bus back to Safe Ride's depot. The driver, later identified as Thomas Rivera, worked the morning elementary school route for Oakwood Elementary. Rivera had transported 47 kindergarten through 5th grade students that morning. While those children sat in class, he delivered drugs to cartel operatives. FBI obtained emergency federal warrants to install GPS trackers on suspected school buses and conduct surveillance on safe ride facilities. Over the next 2 months, agents documented a pattern that grew more horrifying with each observation. 56 different school buses made stops at non-school locations during or after routes. Surveillance captured drivers meeting with individuals later identified as cartel operatives. GPS data showed buses deviating from approved routes to make unexplained stops. Drop a comment below. Should drivers who endanger children while smuggling drugs face life in prison? What's the appropriate penalty for weaponizing school buses? And if you're not subscribed to Truth America yet, hit that button. We expose corruption that puts your children at risk. Subscribe now. In June 2024, FBI installed covert cameras at several transfer locations. The footage was damning. School bus drivers opening hidden compartments, removing drugs, handing them to cartel members, receiving payment, and driving away. In one video, a driver completed a drug transfer, then immediately left to begin the afternoon route, picking up children within 20 minutes of handling cartel cocaine. Financial analysis revealed the scope. Safe Ride owner Marcus Chen had received $12 million in payments from cartel shell companies disguised as consulting fees and fleet management services. The 56 corrupt drivers showed deposits totaling $16 million collectively over 3 years. Amounts impossible to explain on their salaries. Some drivers had purchased homes, luxury vehicles, and made lavish purchases completely inconsistent with a $35,000 annual income. But the most disturbing evidence came when FBI obtained federal warrants to search several school buses in July 2024. In bus number 247, which transported 52 elementary students daily, agents found a hidden compartment beneath the floor containing 23 kilograms of cocaine. The compartment was directly below the third row of seats, where 8-year-olds sat every morning. In bus number 189, agents discovered 18 kilograms of methamphetamine in a modified emergency supply box. The first aid kit label was still visible. Children had probably looked at that box daily, never knowing it contained poison. In bus 312, FBI found 67 pounds of fentanyl powder hidden in compartments beneath student seats. 67 pounds. Enough to kill every person in Houston 4 times over. And it had been transported on a bus carrying 41 middle school students. By August 2024, FBI had overwhelming evidence. 56 drivers, 56 buses, video surveillance of drug transfers, GPS data showing route deviations, hidden compartments in buses with drugs still inside, and financial records proving $28 million in corruption payments. Every day the operation continued, thousands of children were endangered. September 17th, 2024, 5 a.m. FBI tactical teams coordinated with Houston Police and Texas Department of Public Safety for Operation Yellow Line Betrayal, the arrest of 56 school bus drivers and the owner of Safe Ride Transportation before morning routes could begin. At precisely 5:47 a.m., FBI raided Safe Ride's depot where drivers reported for morning shifts. Agents blocked all exits. As drivers arrived, preparing to pick up children in less than an hour, they were arrested one by one. Thomas Rivera arrived at 5:52 a.m., ready to drive his elementary school route. FBI agents met him at his bus. Thomas Rivera, FBI, you're under arrest for drug trafficking and child endangerment. Rivera's bus, the one he'd driven children on for 3 years while smuggling drugs, was seized as evidence. Across Houston, FBI arrested drivers at their homes. Some were still sleeping. Others were preparing for work. All were taken into custody before they could endanger another child. Not one drove a route that morning. At 6:30 a.m., FBI arrested Marcus Chen at his $4.2 million River Oaks mansion, purchased with cartel money while his drivers transported drugs alongside children. In Chen's home office, agents found ledgers documenting 3 years of drug smuggling operations, lists of the 56 corrupt drivers with payment amounts, and communications with cartel coordinators coordinating shipments. By 8:08 a.m., all 57 defendants were in custody. Safe Ride Transportation was shut down by court order. Houston ISD and suburban districts were notified and scrambled to arrange alternative transportation for 28,000 students. Parents received emergency notifications that Safe Ride had been shut down due to a federal criminal investigation, without initial details about the drug smuggling to avoid panic. But the full story broke by noon. News that school bus drivers had been smuggling drugs while transporting children sent shockwaves through Houston. Parents were horrified, school administrators demanded answers, and the community wanted accountability. FBI held press conferences at seized school buses, showing hidden compartments where drugs had been stored. Special Agent Maria Santos stood beside bus number 247 and addressed cameras. In this bus, which transported 52 elementary school children every day, we found 23 kilograms of cocaine hidden beneath the seats where 8-year-olds sat. The driver of this bus made that choice every day for 3 years. He chose money over safety, and he will spend decades in federal prison for it. September 18th, 2024. Attorney General Pamela Bondi held a press conference in Houston alongside FBI Director Christopher Wray, DEA Administrator Ann Milgram, and Houston Police Chief Troy Finner. Yesterday, federal law enforcement arrested 56 school bus drivers and the owner of Safe Ride Transportation for smuggling $670 million in drugs while transporting children. For 3 years, these individuals endangered 28,000 students daily. They hid cocaine, methamphetamine, and fentanyl in compartments beneath seats where children sat. They made drug transfers in school parking lots. And they did it for money. We found 67 pounds of fentanyl in a bus that transported middle school students. These drivers didn't just break the law. They weaponized the trust parents place in school transportation to serve drug cartels. The charges reflected the severity: drug trafficking, conspiracy, money laundering, and critically, child endangerment. Federal prosecutors added special enhancements because drugs were transported in the presence of minors. Each driver faced 25 to 50 years in federal prison. Marcus Chen faced additional charges, running a continuing criminal enterprise, racketeering, and endangering children. He faced life in prison without parole. Parents filed a class action lawsuit against Safe Ride Transportation seeking damages for the emotional trauma and endangerment of their children. The company was bankrupted within months. Faced with overwhelming evidence and the prospect of decades in prison, 48 of the 56 drivers accepted plea agreements within 6 months. They received sentences ranging from 25 to 35 years. At allocution hearings, several drivers apologized to parents and admitted what they'd done was unforgivable. 9 defendants, including Chen, went to trial in March 2025. Prosecutors presented surveillance footage of drug transfers, GPS data showing route deviations, photos of hidden compartments with drugs, financial records showing $28 million in payments, and testimony from cooperating drivers. The most powerful testimony came from parents. Mothers and fathers described dropping their children at bus stops every morning, trusting drivers to keep them safe, never knowing their kids were riding 3 feet from cocaine and fentanyl. One mother testified through tears. "I put my daughter on that bus every day. She was 7 years old, and the driver was transporting poison that could have killed her. How do I explain to her that the person we trusted every morning was working for drug dealers?" The jury deliberated one day before convicting all 9 defendants on all counts. At sentencing in June 2025, Marcus Chen received life in prison without possibility of parole. The judge's words were searing. "You took an institution parents trust, school buses, and turned it into a drug smuggling operation. You endangered 28,000 children for money. You corrupted 56 drivers and put poison on buses where children sat. You are among the most morally bankrupt criminals I have sentenced. You will die in federal prison." The 8 drivers who went to trial with Chen received sentences ranging from 40 to 50 years. None will be eligible for release until they are elderly. Houston ISD and surrounding districts terminated contracts with Safe Ride and implemented new safety protocols, random inspections of contractor buses, GPS monitoring of all routes, background checks every 6 months, and whistleblower protections for employees who report suspicious activity. Texas passed legislation requiring annual criminal background checks for all school transportation employees, random drug testing, and enhanced penalties for crimes committed while transporting children. President Trump addressed the case during a speech on protecting children. School bus drivers in Houston smuggled $670 million in drugs while children sat on their buses. They hid fentanyl under seats where 8-year-olds sat. They endangered 28,000 kids for money. But we arrested every single driver, prosecuted them, and they will spend the rest of their lives in federal prison. Anyone who endangers America's children will face the absolute maximum penalty. The 56 school buses used in the smuggling operation were destroyed, cut apart, and crushed to ensure they could never transport children again. The images of yellow buses being demolished became a symbol of betrayal and accountability. The 56 drivers and Marcus Chen sit in federal prisons across the country, serving sentences that will keep most of them incarcerated until death. And the 28,000 children who rode Safe Ride buses will grow up knowing that the adults trusted with their safety chose money over their lives, but that justice eventually held them accountable. If you believe Truth America is essential to exposing corruption that endangers your children, then like this video.
So I thought that was an important video to get out. What do you guys think? I got one 6-minute one that I can't remember if we played it. It's a short one.
Rockefeller, the man who more than anyone made sure that the Twin Towers got built so that he could destroy them with people inside. And it's shortly after construction began, so I thought there might be some interesting, sneaky revelation of the method, style, language in the article. Then I noticed that he has the hands of his quite visible watch set at 9 and 11. I always felt like there must be more to this cover, but it took me 3 years to figure it out. As you can see, he's sitting in the window of his office in 1967, 8 months after the groundbreaking for the building of the World Trade Center, with the hands of his watch set at 9 and 11, like I said. 9 and 11 on clocks was one of their favorite ways to foreshadow the upcoming date of their mass murder. They did this in many movies, television shows, and even commercials in the lead up to 9/11. Either the hands are pointing almost exactly at 9 and 11, or it's 11 minutes after 9. There was always something that bothered me about the so-called plane hole on the north face of the North Tower. The iconic one that really represents the 9/11 false flag, and the one that they show us the most. I knew it was an important shape and angle for Rockefeller, and he knew well in advance exactly what he was going to make sure that it looked like.
Yeah.
After all, it appears on the $10 bill back in the 1990s series, along with all the other scenes from 9/11 laid out in perfect order on the bills. This is also one of the first things that showed me that there were no planes used on 9/11. So the other day it occurred to me, the fake plane hole on the North Tower looks like one of the wounds that was on the Jesus statue on the crucifix at the church when I was a kid. Same shape and angle. So I start looking up crucifixion images just to be sure, and this article comes up. Jesus' crucifixion date, possibly April 3rd, 33 AD, according to earthquake study. See, the Bible says that when Jesus died, the ground shook, and they're able to go back that far and figure out when earthquakes occurred, apparently. April 3rd just happens to be the date of this magazine. So then I checked how many years there were between 33 AD, the probable year of the crucifixion, and 2001, the year of the mass human sacrifice on 9/11, foreshadowed on Rockefeller's watch. The number was 1,967, represented by the year seen here. In case you haven't heard, many people have been saying for quite a while that the probable actual birth date of Jesus was September 11, 3 BC. On that date, Jupiter, the king of the planets, collided with Regulus, the regal star, in Leo, the king constellation. I'll link to a much more thorough explanation below, but to me, it's one of those things that make a lot of sense. Studying these people for a while, it's exactly the type of thing they like to do. Take something pure and important to a lot of people and twist it and pervert it. Have the sheep celebrate the birth of Christ on the wrong day, coinciding with a pagan holiday, actually. The very word Christ Mass does not mean the birth of Christ, but in fact his death. So they take the date 9/11 and corrupt it into something that in our minds signifies emergency, and make the actual day into a day of terror and sadness and mourning. And this is just the creepy member of their club that would enjoy gloating about it on a magazine cover. In the 1940s, David Rockefeller's uncle Winthrop Aldrich was on a committee to attempt to get the World Trade Center built back then. They were also foreshadowing 9 and 11 in the 1944 movie Double Indemnity, and even throwing in an allusion to the name Rockefeller in the same film. In the 1960s, a plan was introduced for a nationwide emergency number. Britain implemented 999 as their emergency number back in the 1930s. Australia and New Zealand selected 999 and 111 respectively as their emergency numbers in the 1950s. Yet for some reason, in 1968, just a year after this magazine came out, AT&T announced at a press conference that a universal emergency number was being established for the U.S. However, instead of 3 like numbers for ease of dialing in a crisis, numbers that could not be further apart on the dial would be used. 9 and 1 had been chosen by a computer, they said. Besides being a client of the Rockefeller-funded and directed Rand Brainwashing Institute, the 1975 book The Rockefeller Syndrome lists AT&T as just one of the many companies under Rockefeller control or influence. In the book Rockefeller, the Man Who Misrules the World, AT&T is referred to as the Rockefellers' family-owned monopoly. So they used their power to make the numbers 911, birth date of the Prince of Peace, signify danger and crisis, and after September 11, 2001, heartache and mourning. Rockefeller puppet Ronald Reagan even designated September 11, 1987 to be 911 Emergency Number Day, calling on the people of the United States to observe this day with appropriate ceremonies and activities. And every year, like clockwork, the Rockefeller Center Christmas tree, an enormous representation of the one thing the Bible tells us not to drag into our homes and decorate with gold and silver, is lit at 8:55 p.m. when the hands on the clock are exactly as they are on Rockefeller's watch. So here we have David Rockefeller, the man who was instrumental more than anyone on the planet in ensuring that the Twin Towers got built. Less than a year after the construction began, with the probable date of the crucifixion of Christ above his head, along with the years between that event and 2001 listed here, and the probable date of Christ's birthday and, of course, the date of the mass murder that took place in his towers in 2001 on his watch. A mass murder during which a slice appeared 1,000 feet up over southern Manhattan for all the world to see, similar to the wound depicted in many images of the person that the event seems to revolve around. And just as a side note, if you open this thing up, there's a cigarette ad on the back cover that puts two tower-looking things in red right about where the towers are being built, to David Rockefeller's right, if this picture continued west. So this is what we're dealing with. Sick, arrogant people that feel the need to put their mark on everything in an attempt to convince us that they have total control of everything, which means they don't. As for God and Jesus in the Bible, I know it's trendy to be an atheist and hate all religion, but obviously those who hoard the knowledge, the same people that do very well if we're misinformed, plan their events around these things we're not supposed to believe in. Maybe they know something we don't. All pertinent links in the description, and thanks for watching.
Okay, yep, I wasn't sure about that one. I got another one, Paul. I wasn't sure if we played or not. It's another 3-minute one. I can't remember.
Wireless devices in the system, and that some of the components in the system were made in China. Now, does that concern anyone, that somebody with a cell phone at a hotel close by could just go in and hack the machine? And I would never know it. As an elected official, me and my staff would never know it. Also found out that Secretary of State had secret passwords. They could come in through the back door without me knowing. So that's report number 2. Then, and I'm giving all this to the DA. The DA, by the way, who was going after a guy, well, not going after him, but was prosecuting a guy with 26 pounds of fentanyl, and decided to let him off on probation, but go after me. And the reason I know that is because my attorney was representing us both.
You guys remember this one?
I believe my attorney traded the case. They wanted a $500,000 cash bond, etc. Why are they working so hard to go against a Gold Star mom, cancer survivor, don't even have a speeding ticket, don't have a parking ticket, have never had any criminal behavior whatsoever, 68 years old? I mean, isn't it a little suspicious they would be prosecuting and persecuting me the way they are? So I had taken this to the DA, had taken it to the commissioners. And by the way, they were Republicans, because you have to be Republican in my town to get elected, right now anyway. Nobody would do anything. Nobody would investigate. This is a crime that's been committed here.
Right.
The commissioner says to me, yeah, but you haven't showed us how you can actually flip a vote. I went to the cyber guys and I said, look at the April 6, 2021 election. I said, that's where you'll find it. Sure enough, they not only found it there, Kim, they found it in the 2020 election. How a secret database was created, and the images of the ballots, when they take an image, they take a picture of the actual ballot when it goes through the black box, the tabulator, that you don't know what goes on inside of there. And then they change the ovals. They change that image so that, and we know it's been changed because it's missing the authenticating .sha file. It's missing. And also they go through adjudication different. Adjudication is where either the computer or a team determine what that voter intended. So that team only sees the
Yeah, I
image.
know.
They don't look at the actual ballot. And there was software on there able to flip votes. And Mark Cook has done a great job of showing you how easy it is to go in. There's no protection. You don't need a passcode, anything. You can go in, change two numbers, and flip the vote from Trump to Biden or Biden to Trump. That's what showed. There were 36.
Okay, another one there. I got that one guy, short one, 5 minutes.
Establishment terrified. See, they've been running around and committing crime, fraud, deception, rigging elections, and then stealing from the American people. But what Kash Patel just announced has them absolutely terrified, lawyering up and buying plane tickets to flee from this country because justice has arrived. Do me a huge favor, smash a thumbs up, subscribe, leave me a comment. Where are you tuning in from today? And before I show you the shocking statement, I want to give a big shout out to today's sponsor, Verity Metals. Ladies and gentlemen, have you seen what's happening to gold, silver, and platinum? That's because we just found out there's a massive worldwide shortage, but Verity Metals, they got you covered. They still have gold, silver, and platinum in stock. These people are patriots, people of faith, and Trump supporters like you and I. That phone number that you see on your screen is Matthew, the owner of Verity. That's his personal cell phone number. He's a good friend of mine. He gave me the go-ahead to share his personal number, even over the weekend, for you guys to reach out. So call him, 480-717-9081. They still have precious metals in stock. Get it while you can, because this is right now time to profit. Links are down below in the description. Now, yesterday I covered the Minnesota fraud, right? The Somalians stealing all this money. Well, listen to what Director Kash Patel posted less than 2 hours ago. 2X, sorry. Quote, case update, Minnesota fraud scheme. The FBI is aware of recent social media reports in Minnesota. However, even before the public conversation escalated online, the FBI had surged personnel and investigative resources to Minnesota to dismantle large-scale fraud schemes exploiting federal programs. Fraud that steals from the taxpayers and robs vulnerable children will remain a top FBI priority in Minnesota and nationwide. To date, the FBI dismantled a $250 million fraud scheme that stole federal food aid meant for vulnerable children during COVID. The investigation exposed sham vendors, shell companies, and large-scale money laundering tied to the Feeding Our Future network. The case led to 78 indictments and 57 convictions. Defendants included Abdi Wahab Ahmed Muhammad, Ahmed Ali, Hussein Farah, Abdullah Nur Jisau, Asha Furhan Hassan. Oh man, I can't even pronounce these names. Each charged for roles ranging from wire fraud to money laundering and conspiracy. Interesting, none of those names sound American. These criminals didn't just engage in historic fraud, but tried to subvert justice as well. This guy, Muhammad Nur, and others were charged for attempting to bribe a juror with $120,000 in cash. Those responsible pleaded guilty and were sentenced, including a 10-year prison term and nearly $48 million in restitution and related cases. The FBI believes this is just the tip of a very large-scale iceberg. We will continue to follow the money and protect children, and this investigation very much remains ongoing. Furthermore, many are also being referred to immigration officials for possible further denaturalization and deportation proceedings where eligible. Ladies and gentlemen, the fraud in Minnesota is historic. We've never seen anything like this. We've never seen anything close to this. And praise God that now we have our FBI director, Kash Patel, looking into this. People will go to prison. These Somalis will go back home to their home country. And Tim Walz, well, his tampon Timmy, his ass needs to be in prison. God bless you. That's it for this one. This is a great update. We might actually see mass arrests. I'm out.
Okay, he does good. He's been around a long time. I got 3 short ones I'm going to try to get in. Did we play this one?
So, if the organic matrix restores itself through coherence, and the synthetic overlay matrix collapses when it becomes obsolete, then the next big question is, what role do you play in stabilizing this timeline and restoring the organic matrix? And before you roll your eyes and scroll, you know I brought the scientific and ancient history research to back this up. All right, let's go. You are not a passenger in reality. Modern physics has already told us something radical. Reality cannot exist independently unless it is observed. From the observer effect in quantum mechanics to participatory universe theory proposed by John Wheeler, the universe literally requires interaction to become real. Ancient civilizations already knew this. The Egyptians called it ma'at, which is the right order through conscious alignment. The Vedic text called it Rita. I hope I'm pronouncing these right. Rita is cosmic order sustained by awareness. And the Taoists called it Wu Wei, which is alignment without force. Translation, reality stabilizes when consciousness is coherent. Coherence isn't just a vibe, it's a measurable state. This is where the science comes in. Studies from the HeartMath Institute on heart-brain coherence proves that when an individual enters a regulated emotional state, their electromagnetic field becomes more ordered, and measurable effects occur in their environment. Neuroscience confirms regulated nervous systems perceive more accurately, coherence increases pattern recognition, and intuition sharpens when internal noise drops. In physics, this is called signal-to-noise ratio. You don't manifest by force. You stabilize timelines by reducing internal distortion. Ancient initiates were trained timeline stabilizers. This is not new work. Ancient mystery schools didn't train followers. They trained anchors. Priests, priestesses, shamans. They were taught breath control, emotional regulation, ritualized focus, seasonal alignment, and geometric visualization. Why? Because a coherent human nervous system acts like a node in a grander field. Enough stable nodes equals a stable civilization. This is why temples were built on ley lines, why ceremonies align with solstices, kind of like the one I posted in my last video. And this is why sacred geometry was memorized, not worshipped. They weren't praying to reality, they were maintaining it. So what does this actually look like? What I'm about to say is going to surprise a few, but stabilizing the new timeline does not require convincing others. It doesn't require saving the world. It doesn't even require fighting the system. What it looks like is responding versus reacting, actively choosing coherence over chaos, actively listening before projecting, and actually embodying truth, not just broadcasting it. In systems theory, this is called local coherence creating global order. In biology, it's how cells heal tissue. In physics, it's how phase transitions lock in. The smallest yet coherent unit can influence the whole. That unit is you. You didn't suddenly wake up one day by accident. As the organic matrix reasserts itself, it recruits stabilizers. Not leaders, not rulers, anchors, people who can self-regulate, who can question gently, who feel deeply, who naturally sense patterns, and who actively choose integrity even when it's difficult. You feel the call because your system can hold the coherence. Maybe not perfectly, but consistently enough to matter. Woo, okay. If you made it this far, give me a comment. Comment, I am in coherence.
Okay, she does a good job. I'm not sure if I played her already. So I'm going to make the last one 8 minutes on Trisha.
I think the short answer is she's going to nowhere fast. Anyway, Jasmine Crockett, who got redistricted out of her district when the map was redrawn in Texas, has decided to continue trying to advance her political career. And she was like everywhere yesterday, all over the airwaves. And she even managed to get around to MSNBC where, whoa, they like actually sort of asked her a tough question. And I don't think it went that well. No, because she has no answers indeed. Trying again. Here we go.
Congresswoman, I'm so glad you brought up policy. I went back and I watched your launch speech about your campaign for Senate. And a lot of it was talking about the back and forth with Trump and other people who have put you down over the years. But there really wasn't that much about policy. So I want to give you the opportunity now to talk a little bit about that. Affordability is on everyone's minds. You talked about extending the ACA subsidies. Can you give us like a couple of other examples of policies that you would fight for to help Texans, your constituents, on affordability issues if you were granted a seat in the Senate?
Yeah, so first of all, I think we need to raise the minimum wage. We have not done that in a national way, and so Texas is not taking it upon themselves. So the minimum wage is still $7.25. We can start to go ahead and put more money into working people's pockets. And whether you're a minimum wage worker or otherwise, we know that once you raise the minimum wage, everyone else's wages go up. We know that costs are going up to the extent that we know that when people were showing up in those food lines, as the president was sending $40 billion over to Argentina, instead of making sure that people that are supposed to get their SNAP benefits had their money, we know that there were a lot of working class people. We have somehow decided that in this country, we were okay with 2 senators from Texas voting to make tax cuts for billionaires permanent, while at the same time not being okay with making sure the tax subsidies that are temporary are available as it relates to healthcare. We also know that we are in Texas and we do trading big. We are one of the largest trading states in this entire world. And with that, we know that we are experiencing record bankruptcies from a lot of our small businesses because of the tariff policies that this president has decided he wanted to implement. It is time to rein him in. It is time to implement some sort of checks and balances because he has exceeded his power. We also know that ultimately, when I came down to making this decision, the Senate is the one that actually has oversight over the Supreme Court. It is time for us to actually exercise some oversight. And this is the only court, the highest court in the land. It's the only one that does not have any type of ethics that they have to follow. I think that we need to look at that. In addition to the fact, anyone who gets a lifetime appointment has to go through the Senate. And so it's time for us to make sure that we have someone who has been in those courtrooms and can make sure that the right judges are on the benches.
Okay. So I don't think that went so well. What do you guys think? I mean, I'm kind of thinking, and there's another one I want to show you. She's like almost giving Kamala Harris a run for her money in terms of word salad. She's just really struggling. There's another one on reparations that was just an absolute disaster. She went on and did this podcast, and I'm like, really? I mean, you want to run for Senate? But then again, hey, Kamala Harris was elected. The difference, though, is Kamala Harris was elected in none other than California. And Jasmine is trying to run in Texas. So when you can't even answer the softballs on some little podcast or on MSNBC, the Ms. Network, the Ms. Now Network, I don't know what to tell you. But here's another one. She's just digging herself in deeper and deeper and deeper.
I'm going to try to get through these quickly. There's some misinformation going around about your stance on reparations. I guess just based off of someone proposed what we do with tax dollars.
Misinformation. Because you see, if we were to look at an old clip of Jasmine Crockett, I was just looking at this the other day. She's saying how basically you have to give reparations out because, Black people need it, and there's really no other way around it. So that's now suddenly misinformation.
You gave critique for the idea, but you weren't necessarily saying you were anti-reparations.
No.
And you've told me you've come lead on a couple projects.
Yes, like Truth and Reconciliation in the House. That's something that Barbara Lee was leading on that I'm now working on. I think that anybody that knows me knows that I'm a fan of, making sure that people understand our contributions, as well as acknowledging the harm that has happened as relates to our people. And so for me, it's always been about what is it that we can actually get past?
Okay.
Because I feel like what we do is we constantly have the conversation and we're like, reparations, but it's like, all right, so if we were to move forward in any way, what does that look like? And so, I look at it like, I think it takes kind of some bold, unapologetic people to move the needle. We know that Donald Trump advocated for reparations for January 6ers, right? And so it's like, why is that not a big controversy, right? Like, I mean, that's a bit more controversial in my mind, right? So why is it that we can sit here and be okay with the fact that billionaires are going to get historic tax cuts that are permanent? And we're not talking about like really evaluating what could move the needle as it relates to how far behind we got because of our contributions, basically just from slave labor. And
what was that? What was that, Kamala? That's sort of amazing. Like, if you're going to go into politics, Jasmine, like, kind of feel your way out on some of these issues ahead of time so you don't get yourself stuck in a situation like the one that we just saw. Kamala, if you're listening, that same advice would go for you as well. They just are really clueless, not well spoken, and not able to articulate any of their positions. But maybe that's because they're never challenged, right? They're never challenged. They just go into the podcast universe where everybody agrees with them all the time, or MSNBC, again, where they agree with them. And then they ask you one little lousy question and you kind of melt down. Reminder, if you have not subscribed to 76 Research, make sure you do. This is a great Christmas present for somebody that you want to see start investing their money and thinking smart about their money. We have a piece coming out on this wonderful GDP report, 4.3%. I like it. Zoom. I'm going to use that from now on. Thank you, Rick. Go to 76research.com, 76research.com. Use code word dollar, DOLLAR. You can sign up for the 76 report. With that, you get our Mag 7 monitor, which is monitoring all the Mag 7 stocks because those are the kind of like most important stocks in the market these days, and a whole lot more. There's individual portfolios on there that you can look at. Those are an additional cost, but take a look at that page too. I really do encourage you, and if nothing else, sign up for the free stuff, okay? At least get the free stuff. Just go to 76research.com today.
Okay, that was it with that one, I guess. All right, everybody. Well, another good night of Intel. Thanks, Kay. She stepped out for tonight. Michelle. Everybody have a good work week, and we're winding down to the end of the year. The executive order said January 1st supposed to be all done. They only got a few more days left. So we'll see how this last week of 2025 goes. I don't know if see anything going to happen. I don't know. See what happens. Anything breaks, I'll be on. God bless everybody. Love all. Remember, please just life. Stay safe, stay strong, keep the faith, and never give up. So, signing off. Chico and New until tomorrow evening, unless something breaks. Yep, Paul, everybody. See you guys tomorrow.